Hear me all right? Okay, great. Gente sunda.
Yeah, congratulations.
And can you hear Geshe-la okay? All right, then we are good to get started. Oh, Logumar.
Oh, ta congratulations to
So first of all, Tashi Dele, greetings to all. And Geshe-la's hope for your mind is that your mind is coming into more and more of a positive space, getting better and better. And so when we gather today, one of the most important things to try to do is to try to make this time beneficial. So we should always be checking if we're using it to benefit or not. So when we talk about transforming the mind, this is something that happens gradually, and what we want to do to kind of measure this is to look back and see that as we've engaged in our Dharma practice, have we noticed a change? Maybe not day to day, but at least month to month or year to year. Is there some sort of improvement within our mind? Are our mental problems and disturbances fewer? And is our mental capacity and power increasing? These are all things that practitioners need to consider.
So
whatever teachings we attend, we have to try to make sure that they benefit the mind, right? If there's no benefit, then there's something missing. So this is a story of a journey to Lhasa, and of course many people in the old days, they would go to Lhasa on a pilgrimage, but also great teachers would go to Lhasa to study at some of the more well-known institutions. So this is a story about one Lama who had to travel to Lhasa, and because he was a fairly well-known Lama, he had an entourage and attendants and different kinds of helpers and all of that. And sungshu sunangire. And as this Lama was traveling to Lhasa on the road, he came across another Lama who was giving a Dharma teaching. And it was a Lamrim teaching. And he stayed for that Lamrim teaching for a couple of days, and he became frustrated, saying, there's no benefit of this teaching for my mind. And this disturbed his mind. So as he was kind of contemplating one night when the moon was shining, he was kind of walking back and forth on the veranda of the place where he was staying. And he was saying, this is a well-known Lama, very respected, but I'm not getting any benefit from the teaching. So what is the reason that I'm not getting any benefit?
다 셀치니 마그노 같은 소노토네 테데.
And it disturbed his mind to the extent that actually he couldn't sleep that evening at all.
타네 샤샤 강가타간줄라마티 제즈 녀마노 차차이사 고도베 셰스인데.
And he was talking to himself to the point that his attendants thought, uh-oh, the Lama's lost it. He's gone a little bit nutter butter. So they really thought he was losing his mind, actually.
타네 라메가 다 친 녀바 강가로로 다 때못다와 노지 데데아티 다 텐데레 모두스.
And so the Lama came to a conclusion, though, from this contemplation, which is that when we go to a Dharma teaching, we shouldn't have our primary consideration of that teaching be whether we were entertained or not. This should not be the primary consideration.
다 소소 세 로도 파파겐 잡아서요. 다 내서 강가 다 하고 들어왔어. 다 델타니 대돈 잡아 집에서 마토네 다 텐데 배도 만들어서 아니 전에 용중고지 주바레스.
So he said, actually, that's not the main consideration here. The main consideration should be whether I am able to connect the Dharma that I am hearing with my mind or not. Whether I am able to relate the Dharma that I am hearing to my mind, and thinking this is what I'm going to emphasize to see if I can relate it to my mind or not. With this sort of new way of looking at it, he attended the next day's teaching.
다 소소 링어 이서 그 시르지 되네 다 델 간에서 내가 또 그건 됐더니 다 저선 고치 주거를 다 님만에 님마 나와는 나와를 봐 라마야진 로비 와레스.
And so then he saw that actually what happened is by relating what he had learned, even if he thought it was a humble teaching, to his body, his speech, and his mind, then day to day, month to month, he started to see those incremental improvements.
라마 코라탄도 메가 라마이나 코쇼가 라마이나 라마 메 쳔보케라 쳔보지렌도 와스. 니네서나 수시노케가 라마테 할레비 메메바. 가즈 라마노고치. 노리지마.
Ale, los. Ya, drogendi, michumarwa.
라마테
Halebe topo mareto.
다 수시노케테.
Ya, hakoso.
라마 코로 할레비 메 쳔보. 아사요ndo 라마 쳔보 살도 그랬는데 라마지레스.
Tiapokomason. Tanda sungchu nangen sure. Chumadis keder
chumadis. 메메바스 가즈 라마 뇨추치고 더 수시노데 아레요스 와스.
Loso.
라마 코로 메 쳔보.
Yeah.
할레바 이나 라사요ndo 라마 쳔보도.
And so this Lama who was traveling on this road, he reflected more about his approach, and he realized that the reason also that he was not so interacting with the teachings from that Lama is that he just happened to come across this Lama when he was going to Lhasa. He was going to Lhasa thinking of meeting big and famous teachers. This Lama spoke with kind of like a country boy accent. He didn't have a big name, wasn't famous, wasn't glamorous. And he started to realize that this is also part of the reason that he wasn't fully attentive during the teaching. And at that moment, seeing that in his mind, he decided not to go to Lhasa at all. He said, I'm going to stay with this Lama here, right by the side of the road. His attendants freaked out. His servants freaked out. His friends and followers all told him that he must resume the journey to Lhasa, but he refused to do so. And they said, you can't study with this teacher who nobody knows about, who doesn't have any kind of title. Like, you're a Lama, you're a reincarnate, you have to study with someone else. So that shows that this preoccupation, right, with position, with kind of smoke and mirrors, that's something that was there back then as well. So the thing is, like, the teaching that we receive and who we receive the teaching from, it's actually not the primary consideration of whether it's going to help us or not. The primary consideration of whether it's going to help us or not is if we are able to relate the teaching that we hear to our mind, if we are able to mix it with our mind.
대해서 디세를 오고 근데 왔어. 세코 깨지지 거기에 가시 강에 손을 도둑지 건지 와도 한번 보여 알았어.
And the other thing, too, is that when we speak about incremental improvements within our mind, we should be clear, like if we have some sort of disease of the skin that causes an outbreaks of sores on the body, right? It can take some time to heal from that. It can sometimes take quite a lot of time. But with the mind, actually, if we take the medicine of the Dharma, there can immediately be an impact. There can immediately be a change.
어다 들리지랜데 그래서 어다 들리지 이제 당안주 때 세급하게 강에서 그새 농화 간지네 될파 내가 찍기 주준데 자기 알아왔어.
The Dharma is explaining very clearly the types of mistaken minds, the problems those cause for us, and how to be rid of those.
어다 뭐야 못었으니 어다 들리지랜데 그래서 달래지는다.
So that is just by way of an introduction. Now let us continue with the rest of the class.
Yeah.
So we'll do the meditation. I see we are on sound for musicians. Okay.
어다 리셋와 가지 더더다 렐레선에 대해 있어.
So put the body and mind into a relaxed and calm state.
세 자초든라와 telata chaba gazetun ko chaba 자초는 바탕로 아마도 건네바시라 용거요 말했어.
연결했습니다.
세 자초치 모든 라와지 야르와스 그용보 자치모지 야레스.
The mind is vast. It is vast, deep and profound, like a great ocean.
chaba 간디스 또 와이나 자초는 만로를 코 인도 아마도 그것을 사실하라고 뭐 와스.
Whatever raindrops fall into the ocean, once they merge with the ocean's water, you can't isolate those raindrops. There's nothing to point at.
좀에비 초와 너도 가르거지요나이쇼 미 공용도 노제금에 손노도에 대한 셀파탄로 요레스.
Whatever sort of disturbing thoughts or feelings, whatever mental projections arise within the mind, just think they're like those drops of water merging with the ocean. You don't need to pay attention to them.
너도 자반바바 좀에비 초와 자반바바 레바이나요 소소 리도세 쇼와 중주헬레 진자바이나 공용들은 내가 유명한 소바지.
No matter how many raindrops of disturbances fall, of negative thinking fall, if I'm able to remember that the mind is vast like an ocean and keep my body and mind still, they will not disturb me.
zonwa to nyamba shu se kongla yo ta mando ne lele rojilu maten go jaba yina ta shawa mine lele mandawa chindu so bachi go yores.
Whatever unpleasant or negative thoughts, patterns of feelings, and so forth arise, if we just allow them to float by without grasping, we can remain undisturbed.
다 디톤네라 다 세코로 저게 싸와 사시리바 아니 시비근 뭐지자 다 내서지 리그야 딱그야레스.
Because the mind is in the nature of pure luminosity, because its fundamental aspect is clear and knowing, then we should use that mind to know. We should use that mind to understand. Like a child that walks into a beautifully ornate temple and gazes with wonder, we should appreciate with wonder the aspects of the body, the aspects of the mind, and the self that is posited in dependence upon those.
Tindishine ta lele denita tani deva ina chomebe tsowa no to leba ina chogu nyachu noji konosu ta pandoni pasindo de amata ta sel neba chi chute to mandu sombachi.
So when we tap into that fundamental mind's vastness and we touch that state of relaxation, then whatever disturbing thoughts and emotions may come forth, they'll be like minnows, like little fish, darting about under the surface of the water, but they won't be able to disturb the water itself.
Li se shawa ngale mandrawa li dewa to se oda zoma lele shawa chasu somano.
The body and mind are different than before. The body feels at ease, and the mind feels peaceful.
Se tandi ta rumja lumati yina yo ta gewa to cheju ji ngol ya zogi hiegi sombachi.
Based upon that fundamentally neutral nature of the mind, I will use its clear and knowing capacity to bring forth what is wholesome.
Deyong rong ye Nālandā wāri chūga senji yūzu nika ga kāngi, tātū ga kāngi sena ma dūngā yūzu li chāna jamar chāna yāga la sombi tūni tā niji.
So thinking on the basis of perfecting this self, what I wish to do is to consider all 6 types of sentient beings within samsara. Think about their temporary and ultimate suffering. Wish for them to be free from that suffering. Bring forth that mind of compassion.
Tandi soma nuji chawa chechi, chawa shuji sombi tūni melo tandi shomba.
May they be free from that suffering. May they now be free from that suffering. Make that prayer or that wish for those sentient beings.
Melo tandi niji kuta.
So this is called compassion joined with a prayer, this practice.
Somba nuji chawa de tar sosol tar lewa pitabo, mali pitabo. Nyatsa yabo mombo rachig yo ay lengi sosol yo. Tandi chawa de maro rongi shigi sombi toni laso dundi niji.
I have this human brain, I have this human body and capacity. Therefore, in terms of separating sentient beings from suffering, This is a personal responsibility. I myself alone will separate beings from suffering and the causes of suffering. This is compassion conjoined with the superior intention. In order to actualize this, I will make single-pointed requests to the Buddhas and their children to bestow blessings. May I actualize this. Yeah. Sorry, we have a visitor and I forgot to give him the prayer book, so just give me a moment. Not the most organized person, my apologies. All right. Tumba chom den de jin je ba ja chom ba yan da bar zo be sang ge re ba dang shab su dem ba de wa she ba je den kem ba ke bu du we ka lo gyor wa la na me ba la da me nam gi tem ba sang ge chom den de be ja wa sha gyo tu ba la cha ze lo che de kyo be su chi ho tem ba chom den de jin she ba da chom ba yan da ba zo be sang ge je ba dang sha zu den ba de wa she ba je den chen ba che bu du ye ka lo ju wa la na me ba la dang mi nam gi tem ba sang ge chom den de pe ja wa sha kya tu ba la cha ze lo che de kya zu chi ho tem ba chom den de jin she ba ra chom ba yan da ba zo be sang ge je ba dang shab su dem ba de wa she ba je den chen ba che bu du ye ka lo jur wa la na me ba la dang mi nam gi tem ba sang ge chom den de be ja wa sha kya tu ba la cha ze lo che de kya zu chi ho. Mandala offering. So ji pe ge ju je me do cha ri ra lin ji ni de gyam ba di sang ge shin du me de bo wa ge ro gu nang da jin la je ba re shu i dam guru ratna mendala gam nirya dayami. Refuge and bodhicitta.
Sonje je dan soge je nam la jang chu ba du dani kya su je dagi chen yen ge be so nam ge ro la pen jir sang ge ro ba sho sonje je dan soge je nam la
Choncho bardo dani gyabsu chi dagi chunyin gibe sononge la penjir songe dropa Chedam sogi chunam lal Choncho bardo dani gyabsu chi dagi chunyin gibe sononge drola penjir songe dropa Just gonna switch the sound settings, hopefully, to improve the sound. There we go. Lots again.
야, 다 되래. 다 되면 다 나로서가 시원가 마티 다 갈래 미스 돈아 마토나 갈래 뭐 자는 가로서를 리
So we can't necessarily see it or not, but it's really important to remember to see ourselves in a positive light, understanding that the current human form we have, what is referred to as the basis, that this comes from our exertion in what is good and what is wholesome in previous lifetimes. Please remember that.
다 던지기 리때야 자침부터 다 나로솔레가 돼 봐. 봐줘. 다 사회 발 내가 다 사야 뭐 요아레스 나로셀. 이 사회야 보대지야. 몸바지 나로솔레가레스.
And so also we can understand that if this human rebirth is a result of positive actions in previous lifetimes, that means that we have a lot of positive or wholesome seeds within our mental continuum. So part of our task as a practitioner is first to have faith in those seeds, and secondly, to try to ripen them.
어단적도 와서 어다스 나도 세도 다 리세나 다다 알렌다만라요 리타로 뭐요 알아왔어 나도 세세하텔라 타마요메 바이자 다고 요아요아는 도야다 나도 같이 못 쳐도 알았어.
So when we speak about sort of the composition of a human person, right, we can talk about it in three parts, right? The self, the body, and the mind. And so when we think about those three, right, the body, it's not of such a significance because we know that at the end of this lifetime, this physical body disintegrates. However, the mind, and that we call the self or the I, these are a continuum, lifetime after lifetime, no beginning and no end.
다 쿠아지와 자왕가 좀 미전에 소노스도 됐어. 쿠아지한다스는 판도나요. 나 내가 그거 누가 그거 지주래 마도 고 저와로야 만두와스.
So when we leave this body behind, we can think about it just like moving a house, right? You move from your first house, that house becomes empty, and you occupy a new house. What does that mean? Practically, it means that when you come to that new house, you are faced with exactly the same situation, wanting to be free from suffering and wanting to achieve happiness. And so we can see from that we call the self or the I. This is something important, something to pay attention to.
But
the good part of this picture, which we absolutely have to mention, is you can call it your problems, your unhappiness, or you can just call it samsara. Whatever you want to call it, there is an end to that, even though there is no end to the self or the mind. The faults or the afflicted minds or those difficulties, whatever you want to call them, there is an end to all of these things. Similarly, positive mental qualities such as love, compassion, and patience, there is no end to what they can deliver to us. They can be brought to a state of full fulfillment. That is why they are called paramitas. Perfections. And whether they become paramitas, perfections or not, that's just determined by how steady our mental engagement is with them. He thought I could translate that. He says I'm okay. Energetically, I distracted him somehow. My apologies. Another amazing thing and another positive thing to think about too is that faults, because they're not based on reason, the faults or the mistaken mind, they are not steady. They don't necessarily always have to be with us. They can be cleared away. So when we recollect this, especially when we recollect the qualities of our mind, this is supposed to help us make us happy in Dharma consciousness. It is supposed to make us feel courageous going forward. That's the purpose. So having said that, we are going to take a moment now to develop a motivation related to that. So Geshe is going to present something a little bit different. Something a little bit different today. Where's that from? Is that from Monty Python? Something completely different. That's literally what he said. So it is going to be a completely different way to calm and steady the mind. So in the space in front, and I don't know, Dave, if you can share that image, but in the sky-like space in front, Geshe would like you to all visualize Tara in her heroic one aspect, red in color, one face and two hands. Excellently heroic Tara. So one hand gesture of generosity, one hand gesture of preaching the Dharma. And sprouting above her left hand, which is at her heart in that mudra, is a beautiful flower. She sits upon a beautiful lotus and moon seed. At her heart is the letter Tam, around which circles the Tara mantra, Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. The seed syllable Tam, as well as the mantra garland itself, all emanate rays of light. On either side of us, our father and mother, and behind us, all 6 types of sentient beings of samsara, but possessing human form, gaze up towards the Tara in the sky. Venerable Tara is pleased with us. She feels close to us because we've brought forth these minds of faith or confidence. So, in order to receive her blessings, let us do not using our mouth to recite, but just using our mental faculty. Recite Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. Recite this using the mind. the sound arises in the mind.
Rumba Jatetune, Marche Tilita, the Zugese, Kama, Chabamba, Nujuru, Sosokata, Onima, Shus Somano.
As we continue with this mental recitation, from the mantra garland at Tara's heart, countless lights and nectars emanate, descending to our crown, entering through our crown aperture, completely filling our body and those of the sentient beings.
Lich Papa, Pagaymo Zuni, Shuini, Natalina, Lichikang, Senjikang, Kangapa, Chanel, Konshawa Noji. What I listen the Egataba. Chaba is
We can think that this nectar and light is like a steady jet stream, and that our body is like a hollow reed or piece of bamboo. It completely clears away all of the stickiness, all of the filth, and clears away all of our perturbations of body and mind.
Since you do it, the positive of the Agachet. Only, Kuru Combo, Matopa, the Chazan.
In order to be able to free all sentient beings from suffering and lead them to happiness. Until I actualize enlightenment, I shall always go for refuge to Venerable Tara. In order to be of maximum benefit to sentient beings, for that purpose I must actualize the state of Tara, bring forth bodhicitta.
That is it cannot be because that is a drama can no more but you see what you are married in Inayo. It's a Dojanajoma Noji. Can more but essential Chetrapa.
Yeah.
Hakasara, or that dig it and did you are so this?
So Geshe said that this was that meditation going that Droma Marpo dene.
It's a Dojanajoma Noji, no more botiga.
Yeah.
Or that essential Sewa, or that tap Hallev shoot of your bigata.
So maybe this form of red Tara is not familiar to people, although she is absolutely central in this system. There are differing explanations, but one is that her red color, similar to the red color of Venerable Vajrayogini, comes from having great compassion, great concern for sentient beings.
Yeah.
It's also said to be the same color red when you blush. If you meet an attractive woman or an attractive man, when the couple first meet, that kind of red color of their cheeks, that sort of embarrassment when you meet someone you like, it's said to be like this color. So many different explanations of her color. So we aspire to achieve the enlightenment of Venerable Tara. So why would we want to aspire to her enlightenment specifically? What would a reason for that be? One reason is that she is said to be the embodiment of the wind element of all of the Buddhas of the three times. Therefore, she is unobstructed in being able to bring benefit to sentient beings. This is one reason.
다 틀레 페타 예레 만다와 녀와지와 이사 다 모두 다 든릴 몸몰 다 보게 하고서와 당이스 튜니를 다 보게 로바지아 로지 몸보디와스.
She's also said to be the embodiment of the enlightened activities of all of the holy beings. And because she is the embodiment of enlightened activities, that means that she can come and relate to beings in a very direct way, which is maybe different than other deities.
다 자갈에 이나요. 저도 지도마 모체한테 제할레비 제차 모모로와스. 다 제메비 도마치야.
So if you go to India and you look at various images of Tara, one of the things that you see with images of Tara is they're usually embellished with a lot of jewels and ornaments. But there's one image in India which is not embellished with ornaments.
다 자가 다 마이나 자가 법이야. 보모지 나만도 그래. 할레비 되는 벤조 모모. 그야레스 마이나.
Ale, loso. So you know, this tradition of a lot of ornaments being worn by women, right? This goes back to the time of ancient India, where before marriage, the ornaments that a woman wore, those would be part of her dowry, right? So it has a cultural kind of reason behind it.
다시도 보도 보모스이나 실로 판로그 콜 몸보 코로 갈아치게 가라와스. 바이나 보모를 예를 만다와 엄마이나 강에 팀보지야.
Yeah. So Geshe said that, you know, like if you've ever been to an Indian wedding, you know that they're quite big affairs, and that, you know, not only the wife's family has to gift things, but also the husband's family has to give things. But despite that being said, for the woman, and because of this dowry, getting married was often a time of hardship for her and her family, right? It was a real difficulty.
다 던지 무슨 저거지로 보모지 변조되면 단에 라마 던지를 셔와자. 로파치로 치세네. 단에 라마 던지 지서 도말을 따라서 왔다. 던지 지는 지서 도미 제 강가테 로지신이와.
So anyways, this relates to a story of Tara, in that there was a very poor family, and one of their daughters was going to get married, and there was tremendous pressure from the husband's family for a dowry. They were worried. They thought, what kind of life will our daughter have with no dowry? So they asked the Lama, what should we do? We don't possess any wealth to give. It is said that the Lama advised them to pray to Tara, and this image of Tara took all of the ornaments and jewelry from her body and offered them to the woman's family. And because this image of Tara had sort of come alive and given away all of her ornaments and jewelry, she became known as the unornamented. I hope that's the word. I don't know if it's non or un, but you get the point. Unornamented Tara. Unornamented Tara. So this is a special quality of Tara, that she can help very directly, even in a worldly sense, according to particular circumstances.
Yeah, so
Geshe said, you know, he's not trying to like pinpoint India here, because we know that for women in all parts of the world, it was very difficult, you know, in previous times, getting married and having to give money and wealth to a family. But fortunately, in all parts of the world, you know, things have improved, and this is no longer such a burden on a woman or her family. So whatever Buddha state we hope to aspire to, whether it is Venerable Tara, whether it is Avalokiteshvara, whatever Buddhahood we aspire to, we know that to get there, we need to cultivate the path in stages.
아니 뭐가 지서 도마이는 남아테 첨보요 봐.
Ale.
너기 지서 도마이는 다 마셔라 매바치.
Ale. So Geshe is and he said that you know, this was in a commentary he was looking at, so he feels like he should share it, but it's a little bit of an embarrassing thing. But it is said that Dochipo, right? It is said that when we practice Tara in the sutra system, because she's in a lot of sutra systems, she does not have as voluptuous a chest. But when you practice Tara in the Tantra system, she has a more voluptuous figure.
오다 던지지자 당길라야 제 맵이 도마텔 나마 맵바가 도마 던지 당은 노징아 좀 지마치 데스 그저 공보지
Loso. And so the other thing to understand is that different forms of Tara don't always necessarily suit whatever the ideal of the time is. So this form of Tara who gave away her jewelry, actually, she was a sutra execution of Tara in terms of the statue, and so she had sort of like a thin and non-voluptuous appearance, yet she was still able to give away her wealth. So there are said to be in our world two images of
Sri Lanka gambachina Roma Chinduas, Doma Yosarwas,
Roma Yosadi. Yeah.
Romachi Yosares Korosko.
Yeah.
Galantan Namachimo the Munduas.
Loso. Yeah.
What they may be Tene Korosla Machila, Getcha Duas Machi.
Yeah.
Atrivicala Ota, Dodumani Chavayo.
So Geshe was kind of thinking about this story, and he looked in the commentary because he had heard that in Sri Lanka there's this very famous image of Tara, but she is not constructed with this voluptuous figure. And so somebody there had asked a lama who was present why this is the case, and he said because when the artisan is constructing the image according to the sutric tradition, you do not have a voluptuous figure.
Oda allocated motors, Kalakalanganzo, she was Tandragon to us. Oda Tandiji, the Tanganzo, should you just say to Tuni to be Shirani dere, that Daniel, that Page, Tembo to Passover Chayala, Shinedo, how to get a moving.
So we want to be able to achieve that Buddhahood state, actualize bodhicitta, and bring forth the wisdom realizing emptiness. Connected with bringing those forth, in the text we are speaking about the practices of calm abiding and special insight. So as much as possible too, when we practice, right, we're practicing with the hope of realization. Now, realization may be a little bit further away than we like, but that's where we're trying to go. And to bring forth those realizations, we need a perfect, complete practice of method and a perfect, complete practice of wisdom.
Oda Tendel Tupasia Rewad Jagarawas, Oda Tupasian and etc. Kasi Tashi Matoba Inayo, Shewashimata Lonzo Pue, Tumani to Shonju Shomba, the Niji Shonju sister, Gawarome Pashimoyachizokuyaris.
So let's say we don't meet our ideal and we don't reach realization in this lifetime, right? That this lifetime goes by without us having reached realization. But at least we want to put the imprints in place with our mind, that when we come to our next incarnation, we have a natural taste, natural liking for the teachings of bodhicitta, a natural liking for the teachings of wisdom realizing emptiness. So, you know, when you look at the stories of great beings, you'll hear of many beings who they hear just one verse, one short shloka of Dharma, and they have a direct wisdom realizing emptiness.
So
remember, last week we spoke about the students of this Lama who achieved śamatha, calm abiding, in 1 week, right? So these things are possible and they still happen. So as you read your Dharma book, as you recite your prayers, recite each word with attention and mindfulness. In this way, each word becomes an accumulation of merit. Each word becomes a cause of purification of the two obscurations. So in this way, right, when we're like reciting a sutra or doing a practice of sutra, Gondar. Nyamlin Chigiru.
Dogti mo yung yo arawas,
Yeah, yeah.
lo jo to tanyo le un ro yo ar.
Yeah. So when we recite the words of the sutra in this way, the recitation of the words alone becomes a practice when we do it with attention.
Oh, yeah, ta shu ja shu was.
So we are turning to our text. We are on page 16 in the English, about halfway down the page, where it gives a quote from the King of Meditative Stabilization Sutra.
Oh, ta ka zo ka re su ga ta shin ni ji bo ge. Nyemu ta pge ta ga ze kong go to wan wo jing ge ma to. Ha ko sa ra.
Yeah.
Oh, ta ko shi ra me na. Ko ni na te ne ba shi to ma res.
So last time our discussion, just to sum up where we left off, was that if we only focus on calm abiding or shamatha alone, this can sort of pin down or subdue the afflictions momentarily. But without the practice of wisdom, it cannot clear away the afflictions completely.
Oh, ta ti kun te re di me sa. Ko pa ting ze ja bin do.
So we're reading from the King of Meditative Stabilization Arya Sutra. So Geshe will read from that.
Papa ting ze ja bo le chong. Ting ze te gong ba she me chi go ge res nga zo go ting ze te gong ba she me chi chi shu lo ka ren di wa.
So it's
go. Tian da den de xin ji ma she. Tian nian mo she shi ra de chu. Hua xian de ne ting zi gong ba je. Ka te chi la da me so so te ta. Ka te gong ba na te ni nyang en di to ji wi je. Je je gong yi tian she man jo shi su so.
Even if you meditate with single-pointed concentration, you will not destroy the misconception of the self, and your disturbing emotions will disturb you again. This is like Udrak's single-pointed meditation, when the selflessness of phenomena is examined discreetly, and meditations are performed on the basis of that analysis. This is the cause of achieving the resultant liberation. No other cause can bring peace.
Oh, ta chi tongbo tiga. Dingen ze te gong ba she me chi nga zo mo go ja ge res.
Yep. Dingen ze mi mambo gong ja ge res.
Go ja ge res.
Yeah,
Go ja ge res. She go pa go ja ge no ba yo mo go ja ge res.
So the first thing to say here is that in terms of single-pointed concentration meditation or meditation aimed at samadhi, this is a practice common to many, many people, not just within the Buddhist traditions, but within the non-Buddhist traditions as well. There are many people who are practicing this.
Ten to den de xin ji ma she se do was. De shi sa te nyamo. Nyamo bin ji ba.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you will not destroy the misconception of the self, and your disturbing emotions will disturb you again. So disturbing emotions here, Geshe is glossing this. This means our afflictions.
Ota ti to sa ti tisel ke chares.
Ale.
Tisel riwo kaze tinga zul go jane de ba ina. Anan de shi nyamo la. Nyamo bin ji pal ti no ne ba tu tho mares.
Right. So there's something here that's missing from the English. It is saying taktu, right? Which is always. So even if you are always meditating on single-pointed concentration, the disturbing emotions will disturb you again. That means no matter how long you practice concentration meditation alone, the afflictions will still come back if that's all you do.
Ten nyemo shi ra de chu se re. Ha ko sa ra. Go de pa ja cha so na.
Yep. So what it's saying here is that even if you achieve states of samadhi or single-pointed concentration, but that is all you cultivate, when you come out of the meditation session, the problem is those afflictions will arise again. So we can think of this as it relates to this tradition of the long retreat. And Geshe said, that when he shares these stories, it goes without saying that there's many people who have profound transformations on long retreat. So he's not knocking the practice of long retreat. But you've also probably met somebody who's done one of these longer retreats or several. And if you knew them from before they went into retreat and after, you don't see much of a difference. They seem pretty much the same from when you knew them before and when you know them after.
So that
doesn't mean there was no benefit to them being in the retreat. Definitely there was some benefit, but it wasn't the benefit that one really wants to achieve, which is a transformation at least of one's activities of body, speech, and mind. Ale, di michi kroa. Ale. So Udrak, it's a different, I think Udrak must be the Sanskrit, because Geshe is saying a different name. So Udrak is what they call a forder. So this is, back in the time of ancient India, a follower of one of the non-Buddhist philosophies. I wouldn't say Hinduism, because that wouldn't be accurate, but it's a follower of one of the non-Buddhist philosophies. So Udrak sat in a cave and he achieved a refined state of samadhi and was sitting for so long that his nails became very long and his hair became long and tangled. And because he was unmoving, the mice in his cave thought that his hair was pretty great for building his nest, and they would crawl up his hair, take little pieces, and play around with them, and so forth. So at a certain point, the activity of those mice disturbed him. He arose from his samadhi and he became instantly angry. In other words, those afflictions returned right away. So this is just to say that, of course, practicing samadhi, single-pointed concentration, is beneficial for being able to kind of regulate the afflictions, but it is not really an antidote to the afflictions. It can't clear away the afflictions completely. So, and people spend many years in states of samadhi, but don't come away with a big benefit of reduction in afflictions. And this is samadhi practitioners from various Buddhist schools and also samadhi practitioners from other, spiritual traditions as well. So if that's the case, what do we need to do? The balance of the verse tells us, when the selflessness of phenomena is examined discreetly and meditations are performed on the basis of that analysis, that is the cause of achieving the resultant liberation. No other cause can bring peace. Yeah. Yeah. So think about the moment that you're angry at someone, or if you're feeling attachment for someone, that object that is giving rise to your attachment or anger, it is a composition formed by many causes coming together. This one? Yeah, if you don't pay attention to that fact, right, that seemingly solid thing is coming from many causes being pulled together, but just say, I can't be bothered with that, I'm going to just meditate on calm abiding, right? How can that be of lasting benefit in terms of solving problems? Yeah. So even putting all of the afflictions aside, the judgments that we rush to, he or she is good, he or she is bad, this relates to that kind of solid appearance that thing has. It really seems like there is something pinpointable and findable there without a doubt. Yeah. So when the selflessness of phenomena is examined discreetly, examining discreetly means seeing, is the phenomena this or that? Is it pinpointable or is it not? That is the practice of examining discreetly. And when we do just that process of discrete examination, those afflictions which seem so powerful, they will slowly start to subside just from beginning this process of examination.
Deswa ota tenizo atmi tan de tu ta to ota tu mani ngol do ta tenizo ro ya res ngaso.
So if we want to kind of start our practice of emptiness, this is how to do it.
Yo kanga tsuba la tene yung yo ba de ngaso shushu ra ba ja go ya res.
And the first part of just seeing how whatever object or phenomenon is in front of us, it is a composition that arises from all of these causes coming together. That's not so difficult to understand, right?
Da ni mo ta bo she be kala de pa la ni la. Gaden zu zu sa ba ji pataga ze zon do ya res.
But when we have a strong affliction in the mind like anger, we forget even that thing is a coming together of many causes, and we think that there's like a solid, pinpointable thing that we want to defeat.
Kontra sa sa to ta le mo ta sun de de ta le de. Oh ya. Deswa ta tendi za ta ya tu mani go ja ge ne ta ba yong di ge to bi jal ta ba to bi jal do ge se duas.
When we meditate on emptiness, this becomes the cause of achieving that state of moksha, of liberation, as it says in the second bottom line of the verse.
Ta yong ku yen da ji.
So another source follows.
Ta ndi ni mi za le ani ta ten da ni ne phe ko le ta wa ji ge yo na. La ba so chung de le tem bo so ge re sa ji yo res.
So this verse is showing how if you really want moksha or liberation from samsara, you need to have all the practice of all three higher trainings in place.
小句身边的人里中公道，小句身边的人就其中那种的马蹄，姐姐喇叭姐的，
Loso. Oh.
怕比亲的哇，马蹄吧是的，安尼的话个什么？
Oh,
这个喇叭，
Dojengi-lapa. Oh.
小句身边的人是的，希腊个喇叭，电你的马蹄去到马蹄话去，
Tambo loro ci tenere ce ne rossori. Ma tu c'è cosa che ti.
今年走中间出版这版呢，俺家就我给，俺比俺家的对是，马路个人，
Di kawanere jangshub sempe
Dene.
denele roa yanga login. So the Bodhisattva compilation says those who haven't heard these various teachings of the Bodhisattva compilation and have not heard the implemented teaching on Arya's morality, who think that single-pointed concentration alone is enough, will fall into the pit of arrogance due to pride. Yeah. Yeah. Consulting is in Chikpola Tenid and in
What the lava so to botel shiraga lava tono mate. Ni ba de tsaga lava, the was to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell you to mate.
Right.
Somebody is a chibolata, as we can de vainas.
So this is saying that what happens if you completely disregard higher training in ethics and you disregard higher training in wisdom, but you decide to devote yourself only to the higher training in concentration. What will happen if you do that?
Tani ta ngaja chere yung sigre, ngaja te shewa to gawa to nawa to chawa to tani nyange to menga de ba this one. Doing our to him de ba to chuba yung se moto.
So not only will you fall into the pit of arrogance due to pride, but then it lists the things that you will not achieve. As such, they cannot gain complete release from rebirth, old age, sickness, death, misery, lamentation, suffering, mental unhappiness, and disturbance.
This one? Wata ngine ngaro so shewa to gawa to nawa to chewa to ta mengwa de ba ko gwa.
Yeah.
Wata tenda sheka na chala so ngine phuge tsoma so pet mewa chi so go yo na. Wata labas ta shamba se no mandi pi to pa tembo chi go yo.
If we want to be free from these different types of suffering, for example, of old age, death, birth, and sickness, then the only way to do this is to train in all three higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom.
Ota ti labasa to tagaza labasa mardas. Hakosara tumbani dunde ta labasa chi go yo.
And we want a practice, not just any practice of the three trainings. we want a practice of the three trainings connected with an understanding of emptiness, the three higher trainings. Yeah, and so if we look, for example, in the Lamrim, the stages of the path texts, right? So kadire. So 좀 labasum chatsama mare labas sherab gi laba dene kebu chambo yongire kailaga. So if you look at the middle scope of the Lamrim, it talks about the essential to have a conjoined practice of these three trainings.
So the
hearers, the Shravakas, the solitary realizers, the Pratyeka Buddhas, even those just aspiring to personal liberation, they can't achieve that liberation or moksha in the absence of a practice of the three higher trainings. So, sometimes in Mahayana Buddhism, we tend to kind of look down or maybe even denigrate these Shravakas, these Pratyeka Buddhas. But when you look at them from the point of view of practice, they have an extremely refined practice of these three higher trainings conjoined with this understanding of emptiness. Yes. So Geshe is going to share an example, and it may be especially helpful for those of you who are newer to these teachings. And so you can think of samsara and the afflictions as like a deeply rooted poisonous tree that is blocking your path. Think of it like that. So if you want to cut down that poisonous tree, there's some things you need to pay attention to. First, you need to make sure that your physical health is good so that you're strong enough to cut it down. And not just kind of the body generally, but in particular, you need to have a strong arm and a firm grip. And you can't just hit the poisonous tree with the side of your palm. That's not going to work. So you also need a sharp and steady axe. Yeah. So the axe is very important too. So the healthy, strong body is connected to higher training in ethics. The strong arm and the firm grip, this is the analogy for higher training in samadhi and concentration. And the axe, you can see the axe as a little bit like Manjushri's sword. It represents wisdom. So when all three of those are in place, we have the strong body, the firm grip, and the sharp axe. We can cut through and defeat all of samsara and its expressions such as rebirth, old age, sickness, and death. Unfortunately, we do not have this holistic practice of the three higher trainings. Right now, for many of us, our practice is we're like, okay, like I'm inspired, I'm doing practice, I'm inspired, I'm doing practice. But if we were to be really honest, it's like we're picking a couple of leaves or twigs off the tree, which isn't going to really help us. I'm really going to cut the trunk later. I'll leave the big job for later, right? And this way we always postpone till later. Yeah, so we have to think of the three trainings as being like the body, the strong arm or the firm grip, and the and the other thing is this aspect of personal responsibility. And we come again and again to that verse of the Buddha who said, I have pointed out the path to liberation for you, but it is through your own effort that you must traverse it.
저 만다와지 인나선 요구도 왔어.
When you hear that, the impact it should have is really encouraging. It should have a strong feeling and healing impact on your mind.
어다는 저거디 어서 원서 뭐죠. 단 로와 주그 코와는 용서 뭐죠. 로와 주하고 그러.
Yeah, Augustine.
연도송.
So neither do they gain complete liberation from the cycle of the 6 states of existence. So here we're talking about the 3 lower realms and the 3 higher realms.
섬매나 세계 또 많이 될. 또 비테 시라데 매나 세계 아레스.
So what is missing here? It's specifically this wisdom in particular that is missing, that's being pointed to.
다 당길라바 노지 돈이 또 비시라데 대슈 전부지 레바이나. 다 녀모 강가 바짱 녀바 레 녀바 강기가 바 녀모 로켓 그
Once the wisdom realizing emptiness is brought forth, all of the afflictions, all of those negative experiences and so forth can be cleared away. Such is wisdom's power.
Nor
from the heaps of suffering, mental and physical aggregates. So these are the samsaric skandhas or aggregates. Keeping this in mind, the Tathagata has said that hearing the teachings will help you gain liberation from old age and death. So this is a quote of the Buddha. You see the quotation marks there? This is the quote. For these reasons, those who wish to attain thoroughly purified transcendent wisdom by eliminating all obscurations should meditate on wisdom while remaining in calm, abiding meditation. So wisdom here, we should be specific, right? This is the wisdom realizing emptiness. Yeah. So one has to meditate on wisdom while also remaining in calm, abiding meditation. So when we speak about obscurations, obscurations is kind of a vast category. We can speak of mental obscurations and also physical obscurations and so forth. But all of these obscurations can sort of slot into 2 categories, right? The afflictive obscurations and the wisdom obscurations. So the afflictive obscurations, those are the obscurations that block our achieving of moksha, of liberation. The easiest way to explain the wisdom obscurations, sometimes translated as the knowledge obscurations, these are the obscurations that block our achievement of anuttara samyak sambodhi, complete and perfect enlightenment. Yep, she. So I'm going to translate it as knowledge obscuration right now, rather than wisdom, just from having Geshe saying that. So this this knowledge obscuration is the obscuration that stops us from being able to perfectly penetrate all objects of knowledge, to see them as clearly as Geshe sees that plant on his desk. The veil that prevents us seeing that is the knowledge obscuration. Right. So, those schools of Buddhism that say that there's already a Buddha within the mind, the Buddha is the mind, in a way, they're right, because once this final veil of the obscuration is pulled away, then we can comprehend all objects of knowledge perfectly, just like a Buddha can. So, But right now we have kind of the layers of these obscurations, which are like the various layers of the skin of an onion, which prevent us from seeing things the way they are.
어뼈나 쉐고 두두진데 콜니 치가세요 강가 샤토그로 왔어.
Yeah.
쉐르 두두지요나.
Yeah.
대노지레세.
Yeah, so when all of these veils, all of the layers of the onion are removed, the mind can comprehend everything just like a multifaceted crystal or just like a mirror with many various surfaces. It can perceive everything in the environment perfectly.
다 리지 샤마토는 그티 바로 지일레서는 들고 샤토 말어 왔 디과테 그러왔어.
But if you were to cover that crystal with some kind of cloth, then its ability to reflect everything in the room would be hindered, would it not?
그래서 어다 손지가 레잉아 이서데 야와 메바 다 드리지 차 나오지 차차와 이자. 응아조 롱 메바 데르코 나조는 파스 조거 뭐도 왔어.
Yeah.
So 세 가와요나 다가로 손지고 다가로 요.
Also, we should understand that the holy body, speech, and mind of a Buddha are not separated in the coarse way that ours are. So a Buddha needs only to think of a place and is there instantaneously, right? It's not like you think of going to a place and then have to make the preparations to get the body there.
나조 세요 대 노지 말에 대 주도 차타체요 할 가서 가는 것도 근데
Our mind, though, our mind is a little bit like that because most of us know our mind is in many places at once, going in many directions at once. So it seems like it's traveling all the time. So maybe it's lucky our body doesn't always match where it's going.
다 너무 똑게 들리더래.
Yes. But the one that can't go is this heavy body that we're carrying around. Right? Yeah. So that just to explain the shijib, it's one of the two obscurations. I mean, just from what Geshe said, actually, the wisdom obscurations isn't a good translation. The knowledge obscurations is much better, I think. Yeah. So another verse. So we come to the heap of jewel. Arya Sutra says a single pointed concentration is achieved by adhering to moral ethics. With the achievement of single pointed concentration, you meditate on wisdom. Loso. Wisdom helps you to attain a pure, pristine awareness. Through pure, pristine awareness, your moral conduct is perfected. So when you look at the structure of this text, in order that we can have faith in his instructions, Kamalaśīla is citing the sutras whenever possible. So, the meditation on faith in the Arya Mahāyāna Sutra says, O child of noble family, if you do not abide by wisdom, I cannot say how bodhisattvas have faith in the Mahāyāna, or how they will set forth in the Mahāyāna. O child of noble family, you should know that this is because the bodhisattva's faith in Mahāyāna and setting forth in the Mahāyāna occurs as a result of contemplating the perfect Dharma and reality with the mind free of distraction. So that is kind of a really amazing thing. If you think about how this is presented, it's something that even a scientist would be fascinated with. What it's saying is that without wisdom, even if you have perfect faith, without the wisdom, that's not going to be able to get you there. So all three higher trainings are important, but what these scriptural citations are telling us is that out of the three, it's actually the higher training in wisdom that is the most important. And this conviction is common to all schools of Buddhist philosophy, whether the Vaibhāshikas, the Sautantrikas, the Chittamantrans, or the Madhyamikas. We can meditate on love, compassion, and bodhicitta for many eons, and that is wonderful. But if we are not able to bring forth the wisdom realizing emptiness, we will not be able to completely defeat the afflictions. So Geshe is giving a quote from Pramanavartika, like I would recognize it. So just going to be honest, I didn't understand a word of the quote. Why pretend, right? I've had it before, apparently. I don't remember. The point is that even if one meditates on all of the other parts of the path for many eons, without the assisting factor of wisdom realizing emptiness, one cannot defeat the afflictions. Yeah. So when you look at it from this perspective, right, there's many different perspectives that one can look at Buddhism, right? But when you look at it from the perspective that is outlined here, Buddhism isn't a religion in our common conception of that, right? It's more like a mode of inquiry. When you look at it from this perspective, where the focus is on how to develop wisdom, this comes through steady, scrutinizing analysis. Steady, scrutinizing analysis. So in this way, right, it's scientific. So of course, we need other things in place, and there are other branch practices, but the centrality of this main one, wisdom, should not be overlooked. So we are now going to turn our attention to the praises, the 21 praises to Tara. So we are using Lama Zopa Rinpoche's translation. Last week we covered the initial line of prostration, so we're now on the first of the 21 verses. My pen back. Those ones are dried out. I asked him for the pen back. He said the other one's dried out. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Right. So first, just to say, in terms of the 21 praises to Tara, this is a particularly precious prayer because it is sourced from the Kangyur, right, which are the collections of the teachings propounded by the Buddha. So there are different accounts of who spoke this, and I'm sorry, there was a venerable from Italy who sent me the name of this previous Buddha. My mind is like a sieve, so I've forgotten, but say that it was a Buddha from one of the previous eons that spoke these verses, but there are other commentators who say that actually it was Shakyamuni who spoke these verses. So this praise to Tara, this offering of prostration to Tara and so forth, it is something that amazes all of the conquerors. Yeah. There's two ways to explain the 21 praises to Tara. The first way is that these 21 praises all apply to the same Tara. It's like one Tara who is praised based upon these 21 qualities. Another way of giving commentary is saying that each of these 21 praises applies to one each of the 21 different aspects of Tara.
코로 생제 유주 대리야 이제 코론 공부치 토크 뉴스는 또 야들스.
When we praise Tara, when we think about Tara, it should always be from this motivation of wanting to help all sentient beings be free from suffering and achieve happiness, and for this purpose, wishing to achieve the state of Tara ourselves.
다 로마 돈보텔 라드 빠이 로마 오고 봐.
So the first Tara, and so I just said to Geshe, because folks get confused because there are different traditions of the 21 Taras. And so I just wanted to tell people, because if you look these up, which I imagine many people will, these are the 21 Taras from the Atisha tradition. The central figure in the 21 Taras from the Atisha tradition is this first one, red in color, Rabdu Pao Drömarwa. So this first Tara who is red in color, maybe we can put her on the screen. She is known as Rabdu Pawe Drölma, excellently heroic Tara. Excellently heroic Tara. Yes, so she is red in color. So she has one foot which is jutting outwards. This foot that is jutting outwards, this indicates that chakti danda karayare. Right. Nanglolayapati chuloladroyadi. Nanglolayapati. Chuladroyades and ascension kadine pengil. So the foot drawn inward signifies that she has overcome the afflictions and so forth. The other foot going outwards explains that she is constantly going out to benefit sentient beings. Yeah. So if you look, oh great, so we have the image. So if you look at where her right hand is going, it is in the it is in the mudra of bestowing siddhis or attainments. It is showing that I am bestowing all of the common attainments and I am bestowing all of the supreme attainments. Yeah, and so then lomasum meto gangla roa. Kare dusum gisange? So you don't see it in this image, but above the flower, usually there are three sort of leaves, or sometimes you have three buds of the flower that is blossoming at the side of her body. This represents that she has assisted and will assist the Buddhas of the three times of the past, present, and future. Yeah. Yeah. So the open one is the previous Buddhas. The sort of one that's a little bit open. Sorry, the open one is the Buddhas of the past, right? The one that's slightly open are the Buddhas coming in this moment, and the bud that's completely closed represents the Buddhas of the future. It's not in this rendition of her, but you see that in many conceptions. So Geshe is reading the verse of phrase, homage to you, Tara, the swift heroine, whose eyes are like an instant flash of lightning, whose water-born face arises from the blooming lotus, of Avalokiteshvara, protector of the three worlds. So this is a praise to Tara according to her history, according to her life story. That's one way of understanding this praise. So her history means, how did Tara arise? How did she arise and how did she come to be enlightened? And so whenever we talk about her, we want to ornament the discussion of her. And so we should always offer prostration or homage. So that's why this word chak sal, translated here by Rinpoche as homage. That's why that appears at the beginning of each of these 21 verses.
Just drama. Drama la mo ya pala rat pa drama la sha sa.
So I am offering homage, I am offering prostration. To whom am I offering homage? I am offering homage to excellently heroic Tara. Rabtu Pawe Drulma.
Or rat or tak rat pa was ko do us ko la yin ji ba me ba chi se yo rest na.
So excellently heroic means having completely overcome all fears, completely eradicated fear.
Ona ka the ko la sha sa gi bi da je sen da wo ko la tani ma da wa ne sa ka ri yo res.
So why do we want to offer praise to excellently heroic Tara? What makes her worthy of our homage?
O ta ko la ye da ma da wa ka ri yo sa chi chi shi ye te shi.
Yuntenji, Rosso.
This one.
Rosso.
Doma, Nyama, Pamu. Xiene ke ji lo don da ma.
Ti yunten tambor be.
Ye ti shi tere. Doma ji.
Ah?
Doma sil da.
Ale.
Doma, Nyama.
Yep.
Pamu.
Ti truk, ro.
Xiene ke ji lo don da ma. Shima don da ma ska se. Azu ta bo.
Kariji droso.
Doma. Kenza.
Supplement so drotang tre.
Doma.
Yi ha ko son yine ti ji kare.
Ji res te.
Yunten chik. Ale. Ale.
Te tonga ja ge do.
Rosso.
Nyama, niba.
Droma, Nyorma, yeah.
Pamo.
Pamo, Sumpa.
Samba.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, we got there. So, there are 4 qualities that are embedded. Huh? So there are 4 qualities that are embedded in the first part of the verse. The first one is drolma, heroine, and the next one is nyorma, which is kind of swiftness. And the next one is a pamo, which is speaking about heroic, and then cheni kechik. That is talking about the eyes that are like an instantaneous flash of lightning. So those are 4 that are contained within. Swift, heroic, eyes like lightning, instantaneous.
This one?
Yeah.
That Doma, Seri, Senji, Yawa Meba, Shuri Meba, Yawa Meba, Dova Ritu Yuzu Kowadung Esuga Dungal.
Sorry. So the first is Tara, second swift, third heroic. So first is Tara, second is swift, third is heroic, fourth is eyes like lightning instantaneous. Droma dunda carriere?
Doma Seri,
Yeah. So Tara means savioress, the savioress of what? Of all beings without exception, without differentiation. Tara is their savioress from the problems of the lower realms in particular, and samsara generally.
This one? Nyama Seri Ngazuleka Nojima Maila Milamayimba.
Nyorma, the second quality, is swiftness. So she doesn't work like we do, like work a little bit and then kind of take a break. She is doing it immediately and consistently.
This one? Ota Nyama Pamo Seri. Pao Pamo.
Yeah.
Ota Kuna Nipa Meba. Chatwa Kotomozo Savaiza.
Pamo, heroine, means that she has overcome fear. She has overcome fear because she has purified all of its causes.
This one, you take Montaso, Dejas one.
Listen.
That she and get you load on Dama, Ishiki.
Yeah.
Ishiki and Delacona, Chu Yare, Nazuchena?
Yeah.
Another cell corner to Yare, Ishiki.
Yeshigichen. Yeah. So whose eyes are like an instant flash of lightning. You can think of her eyes in her body, but really we're talking about the wisdom eye or the eye of awareness. Yeah, so according to Jetsunpa and other philosophers, karenga. Yeah. Yeah. All of the 5 sense consciousnesses, as well as the mental consciousness of a Buddha, can see. So all of the sense consciousness are endowed with each other's sense powers. So they're all inseparable. And similarly, for a Buddha, all of the different sense consciousnesses as well as the mental consciousnesses, for example, can see and cognize emptiness. This is something that is not possible for a sentient being. Like we couldn't cognize emptiness with our eye consciousness or our nose consciousness. This is a quality that is possessed only by fully enlightened Buddhas, not by bodhisattvas. Like an instant flash of lightning, it's like how that lightning dispels the darkness on a very dark night. Her wisdom helps dispel that ignorance. So on the basis of what causes did this Tara excellently heroic one arise? She came from the cause of Avalokiteshvara, who is known as the protector of the three worlds. So there's different ways to explain the three worlds. One of them is everything under the ground, everything on the surface of the ground, and everything in the sky. That's one way to understand. The easiest way to understand it, though, is the desire, form, and formless realms. You can understand that as the three worlds. So who is the protector of those three worlds and tries to lead the inhabitants of those three worlds away from suffering? It is Avalokiteshvara, who is hence the three worlds protector. So there was a time where there was a time when Arya Avalokiteshvara was working very hard to free all of these sentient beings, and he had had some success in freeing some of them, but it seemed like, because the mass of sentient beings was so great, it seemed like he wasn't even making a dent, like there wasn't a measurable lessening of suffering sentient beings. And so one of the stories goes that because of seeing that he hadn't been able to make the impact for sentient beings, because when Avalokiteshvara says that he cares about helping sentient beings, he really cares about it, right? It's not like kind of how we sometimes care. And so he became really discouraged, and tears began to flow down his face. And from a lake of those tears, there was a lotus, and it is said that from this lotus, Aryatara came. And Venerable Tara said, you don't need to feel despair. You don't need to be despondent. I am also always going to continuously help sentient beings. Yes. So the one who is born from the world's tear-born lotus, this is Venerable Tara. Yeah. So we offer prostration to her. So in this way, we have finished the first of the 21 shlokas, 21 verses of homage. So thank you very much. Now let us lift our hearts up with joy and rejoice. Jongju semjo rinpoche, maje banam jeju chi, chewa nyamba meba yang, gone gondu bewa sho, doni tawa rinpoche, maje banam jeju chi, chewa nyamba meba yang, gone gondu bewa sho, jambe bao jidar tiamba tang, Kundu Zombo de Yon de Je de Da Kungi Jesu da Lo Chir Gewa di Da Tanjera do Ngo de Zun Shepe Gyawa Tam Sheki Gola Choda Ngapa de Dagi Gi Zawa Dinko Kyon Zambo Cheji Rada Ngowa Joyi Gangri Rawe Gowi Shinkam Di Beda Dewa Mali Juwe Ne Chenri Ziwan Tenzin Jatso Yi Shabi Sude Bado Tenkyo
소소 교와서 배네 발았대네 다. 시와 도마면만 앞에 량에 디저 강가 봐 조시다 바지.
Through the merits that we have accumulated, may all of the negativities, obscurations, and their imprints accumulated since countless lifetimes in samsara be completely purified.
중재 요주가 다 대버스 주바 타는 대 다시 말이야 다 버져. 또 진보치는 거지.
May this become a cause for us to contribute not only to our own welfare, but to the welfare of others, of all sentient beings.
유저 뭐 비크 다라도 바이 도미 샬라라 테리다. 세제강가 아파 가르세 리치강이 센지강이 강가시는 대시게 여마샤도야지.
On the basis of Venerable Tara, the heroic one, may she bestow her blessings through these merits to benefit all sentient beings and help them reduce all of their mental and physical suffering. So we'll pause there. So also, if you need to get on with your day, of course, no problem. But if you would like to hang around for questions, please do. And if anyone has a question, feel free to ask.
여다시아 바자니 마생엘 소저야는 야가.
가리냐 정말.
나르세요. 야, 좋아요는 좋아하시오스.
Jonathan, would you like to go ahead and ask your question? Sometimes people don't have microphone or they want to be quiet. So I'll ask for you, Jonathan, here. How does one work with obscurations on the spot as they arise? Anger, fear, anxiety. Thank you.
How does one work with them on the spot, Dave?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Nganso the dripa din so nyumong din so aperna jigba dang tsagitsige dang kongcho hop de kala leka chegi drotan kandesh chikeres mepasoegi leka chetang achana hop de kala lebdu kandesh
그때까지 내가 이 노조레레 세 다 가제트들 다 시와 데 시와서 그래 다 시와 요마로 가제트다 다 보게 코를 따니
So one thing you can try to do is you can kind of try to return to a place of calmness in your mind just by questioning what gave rise to like the fear or the anger or the attachment or whatever. So think, is that object that is kind of compelling this emotional reaction in me? Is it solid? Does it exist from its own side? Is it working in the way that it seems to work?
소소와 두자라고 레비가는 거 노노와 되는 저거 법에 노도라고 지 저거 주다 여비 노와 치모지는 거야.
So when we kind of first react to that emotionally, right? It seems like that person is a solidly abiding thing. Like if we could pinpoint that person who's giving rise to our attachment or anger, that we could find it.
다 론소 제바지 그게 시라지 배제 도토소나. 론소 녀모로 요메 또 다슈 이노요메 가시 되네 된다 거기에 가르세 할 레비 당기된 노지 매바지 된데서 더 그래.
Sorry, as the person with ADD, I hear someone typing in the background, so it's like Kedrup's concentration is very poor. So I lost the train of thought. I'm sorry. Now I'm going to get scolded for losing my concentration. But anyway, younger Sunda.
Yeah.
So Geshe said with wisdom, the thing is like to have that kind of strong wisdom that we spoke about that's going to be able to eradicate the cause of the affliction completely, that is maybe not going to be accessible immediately for us. But even if we bring forth just a little bit of wisdom, this can kind of reduce the reactiveness in our mind in that moment of affliction, right? Yeah. So once we start that process of examination, so for example, if you're reacting to something with fear, the sort of intense experience of fear is immediately going to subside, right? Because we're starting to question the reaction that gave rise to it. Yeah. Yeah.
저는 파 만자와지 소소
Yeah.
파리 뭐다 티 때문이라고 다에 뭐 알아 왔어
Yeah.
저는 파 소소 사사소나
Yeah. Tis ta rinpo de gresa. And the other thing too is that we want some emotional distance from the experience. So when the affliction, when the upset is arising, we don't want to be like a person who's so in our feelings that we're like thrown into that whirlpool of water, right? Because when you're thrown into that whirlpool of water, you're just swept up in the current, you're underwater, you can't see or observe anything. But if we create some emotional distance, it can be like us standing on the bank of the river and observing that water and how it's moving and thinking about it. That's what we want to be like.
어다 된다고 말을 왔어 어다 컨트롤 있는 내 자인의 슈 잡보시비가라 어다 팀이 시라 베제 또 마토나
Yeah.
세거 니빠도 그 마순 슈체가 간가 디슈로 파쇼 잘했어
So so the problem too is that if we're not able to keep this aspect of distance, that anger and attachment, anger in particular, is such an intense emotion that it's like a fire that's kind of burning up all of our mental energy, and it becomes very hard to escape from that.
어다 그냥 개발지세요 알았어
Yeah.
콘트롤 사비가 가리나 더 맞지 아스
Yeah. So one scholar said, like, the first step is not believing the story anger tells us. So that's the thing. Don't believe the story that anger tells you. Because anger is not going to be honest with us, and anger is just actually going to cause us to forget the reality of the situation. That's the only impact.
매돌 따니 때 헬레데는 동근도 왔어.
Yeah.
원들서 그 후에 되잖아. 야본 뭐 도기 좋아하는 거 왔어.
Right. So Geshe said, like, it's like if you're trying to look at something in front of you and you hold your head like this, you're able to see it clearly. But when there's a lot of movement happening in the mind, it's like going like that. You're not going to be able to perceive the thing clearly at all.
컨트롤이 된 노지도 잘해서 간서 해야 돼.
Yeah. So that's what anger does to our mind. We can't rely on any perception through the lens of anger because it's unsteady and distorted.
다 알레 못 와서 왔어. 다니 갈래 지네 다 매봐서 저 다는 지파트 가지 가르를 쉬는데. 얘 가르를 쉬는데. 대 매봐서 준도 뭐 다 전에 제마시야.
So once we step back and we're able to observe the situation a little bit, we can think, where is this fear really coming from? Is the cause that I've identified for the fear something that exists in the way that it appears or not? It is something that is pinpointable, existing from its own side or not. So there's a lot to discuss about that, but those are a few tips anyway.
So,
when the causes and conditions come together, and together with that presence of mind, what we can start to do, maybe not in the heat of the moment, but is start to kind of address the misconceptions that lead to the arising of the anger and attachment in the first place. If we can't identify the cause of anger clearly or kind of think about it in an effective way that's going to eradicate it, what we can do is become completely convinced of the drawbacks of anger. We know that when we're angry, we're not getting any benefit from that experience. If we see that this is a mindset which is only giving us problems and can create distance, that is going to really help us. Right. And we can also see that sometimes our anger might not even have a clearly definable reason when we part the mental noise. If sometimes we're in like an angry state or an upset state, if we go through this practice of trying to find it, we'll see that it's not one specific thing. I didn't finish that important part. It's a mindset of discontent. That can also lead to anger. Right. So like there's sometimes, we experience anger or another unpleasant emotion, and we can't pinpoint exactly where it comes from. This could be imprints that are ripening from previous lifetimes as experience of discontent and so forth. So when we're angry, Tonglen can also be very helpful. And another thing is, Geshe says the most powerful thing, like in terms of an immediate antidote that he finds for him, is reminding himself how fortunate he is. Thinking about all the good things in his life. This is the most powerful tool to uproot those feelings of anger and discontent. So for the case of most of us here, at least Geshe says most of you who he knows, we're in countries, in places where there's an incredible amount of support, where there's an incredible amount of conditions that are favorable. We don't experience anything that even comes close to people in countries with real difficulties, with war, with famine, and so forth. Our problems don't even come close to that. If we understand kind of the sense of fortune, good fortune that we have in this current situation, and if we have a perspective about our problems that what we experience doesn't even come close to those in war-torn countries and so forth, this can kind of immediately give us perspective and reduce feelings of anger and so forth. Yeah, those difficulties that we do deal with, they won't seem as big. So Geshe said that's his end of the answer. So a detailed answer for that one. I hope it was good for the person. So Dave, I'm not sure if it was you or Steve first, so I don't know who to call on first. Sorry.
Yeah, Steve was up first, but also Greg has a question, and we have one from social media. So we have a few questions in the queue.
Oh, we have a few. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead,
so
Steve.
Should we do Steve first then, do you think? Okay, cool.
Good morning, Geshe. Good morning, Kedra.
Good morning, Steve.
I would like to ask, what would it mean to examine the emptiness of something discreetly versus, I suppose, indiscreetly or perhaps obtusely?
Right. Nganso ngema chikti jungi nanglola nganso netsugi tompani sab chene tagi res gi tsik dabo chik dua roa di sangwa chene tompani tagi re duas hagoson so tsik dala so di namgin gi drotang dang menjawa kandes chik re sa gomrim barpane du roa so hamako chik tak.
Mare
ji mare. No. So I'm going to have to find the word for discreetly in Tibetan, Steve. So that's just going to take a moment. So just please bear with me for a moment.
Thank you.
Because I can't remember where exactly it was. Do you remember where in the English it was, Steve? Do you have the
No, I'm afraid not. I think it's Kamalaśīla.
It's Kamalaśīla. Yes. No, this I remember.
I think you use the term last class too, as I recall.
Yeah, and it's from this translation, so it's not just immediately bringing to mind what it would be in Tibetan. Dering the duntra dila roa. Nganso tompani tatang menjawachi. Oh yes. Kandesla gore di tingenzingido. I found it. So we are on page 16. It is from the King of Meditation Stabilization Sutra. Dene heap of jewel Arya Sutra. Yeah, do chikne roa. Nganso tingenzin netsu de la tene roa. Dene udrak di. Udrakdi. Kandeslagre. Tra ringpo. Semo ringpogi. Dela dua. Rasme. Shotran katsure. Chukshire chuk. Chukshire nga. Oh, re. Benechti teroche. Papa tingenzin gyalpo kyang, tingenzin de gompa cheme gi, dene taktu dushe jigpe me, dene nyomong chiryang rabtu trup, lape chudi tingenzin gompa jin, kede chupa dagme, soso tok. So, Steve, I can tell you, this is a case of an inaccurate translation, I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
So it's sosor tok. Sosor tok, which is like kind of analyze each rather than discretely. Sosor tok sena kareres. Tompa ni sosor tok drona kandeshikres.
So each and individually
is more like how I would think of it. Conceptually, individually. Sosor tok. Ratadatanaro toka tok.
Siji was the nyed. Soso to ser penanganzo. So
Geshe wants to give an example to illustrate Steve's question. So think about you're driving in your car and you see a tree which looks like a beautiful round sphere, like a solid, beautiful round sphere. So we have this feeling, oh, there's like this beautiful kind of spherical tree in sort of the distance in front of us.
But
if you're driving slowly and you approach the tree closer and closer, you'll see it's not that unified sort of green sphere. We start to be able to make out various leaves and branches and twigs and maybe flowers. And as we see kind of each separate aspect of that tree, that seemingly pinpointable solid object doesn't seem to be there at all. We have this mind which kind of is conceiving of it as this whole unitary object, beautiful as that spherical tree is, and we think that it is pinpointable, existing from its own side. The sosor tok, individually examining, individually conceptualizing, helps break apart that conception. Yeah. So that's wisdom that is doing that, and this kind of wisdom, because Steve knows some Tibetan, so it's sosor tokpe sherap. So I don't know where they got discrete. There's probably a reason for it, but sosor tokpe sherap is what we're talking about here. And sosor tokpe sherap, this individually conceptualizing wisdom, is taking apart each part and aspect of the object so that seemingly pinpointable solid thing becomes completely unfindable. So that tree is there, that spherical shrub is there, but as we engage with this kind of wisdom, we see how it's not a solid unitary thing, it's merely a coming together of many parts. It does not exist in the way that it appears, because if it did, the closer that we came to it, the more our initial impression of the object should be confirmed, but this is not the case, right? The closer we get to it, the more our initial apprehension of the object falls apart. So that's sosor tokpe sherab. It is like an individualizing individually conceptualizing wisdom. Sorry, guys, I just didn't get the words out. Individually conceptualizing wisdom, something like that. Yeah, so our afflicted mind tells us, right, like, it's just this unitary kind of thing that's just there. But with this wisdom, we're breaking that apart and seeing that that is not the case. It is the coming about of many factors into this unitary whole. That's how it works.
Thank you very much. Hakosan Geshe-la. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Steve, because I probably wouldn't have identified that word wasn't the greatest if you hadn't asked about it. So it's so tokpe up there.
Thank you very much.
Dave, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Dave.
Yeah. So the next sequence is from Katya Di Bernardini, who asks, in the stages of meditation by Kamalaśīla, based upon Śāntarakṣita view, is Geshe commenting through prasangika view?
Sorry, Dave, can you speak closer to your mic? Because I'm losing you.
Okay, I turned down the gain so that
that's why. That's
keyboard wouldn't be.
It was because I complained about typing. That's my fault. Sorry about that.
Right, okay, so Katya Di Bernardini is asking, so Kamalaśīla's text, is it a Śāntarakṣita view? And is Geshe presenting it through a prasangika view?
Okay, yes. Nganso triwa dendere duas Kamalaśīla gomrim barpa kandeslau gure samlo tang kare la tene uma rangjupa res uma telgyoa res ane uma rangjupa yinayang Geshe gi treshe gyabten uma telgyorwa gi treshe gyabtang rebes. So you're correct. So you're correct. I believe Katya. I think Katya's Venerable Sangmo, as I know her. So you are correct. It is a Majjhimika Śāntaraka text. So Kamalaśīla composed this text as a Majjhimika Śāntaraka text, as a middle way autonomy text. That's correct. But in the case of some things, they're the same. So we talked about this individually conceptualizing wisdom. That functions pretty much the same way in the prasangika, in the consequence school, which is held as the highest view in our tradition, as well as in the autonomy school, in the Śāntaraka school. So there's many things in terms of the Majjhimika Prasangika and Śāntaraka about how we think about emptiness and explore emptiness that are going to be very similar or even the same. But there's a big difference between Śāntaraka and Prasangika in terms of whether the object can exist from its own side or not. There are some points of contention about that. And to make it even more complicated, and I forget the Sanskrit words for it, I have to look at the tenets again, but even within the Majjhimika Śāntaraka, so within the middle way autonomy school, there are two sub-schools within that perceive things a little differently. Yeah, it's like the yogic Śāntaraka school, and I forget the name of the other one. If someone knows it, feel free to shout out. Yeah. So there's one, and then there's another one which is kind of an autonomy school that has some aspects in common with Chittamantra or mind only. So those two are sub-schools of the Majjhimika Śāntaraka, the middle way autonomy school. So Bhava Viveka, I believe. Yeah. Yes. And so one of those autonomy schools, according to Bhava Viveka, is kind of it's a middle way autonomy school, but it has some aspects of the Śāntaraka school as well. So it gets very complicated, these schools of philosophy. Yeah. So within this autonomy school, there's some followers have more of kind of a mind-only gloss upon their middle way autonomy school, and some have more of a Śāntaraka gloss on their middle way autonomy school. So there's some diversity in there as well. Yep.
로이파 야샹아지지 요레스.
Yes.
유코로니 치 야샹아지 도모마이바 야샹아지 저요레스.
But Geshe feels that he wants to praise a little bit of the Madhyamika Sautantrika, the middle way autonomy school of Kamalaśīla, at least the way that Kamalaśīla kind of expounds upon it in this text. So we talked about the object, whether it exists from its own side or not, being the main point of contention between the autonomy and the consequence, between the Svatantrika and the Prasangika school. So what Kamalaśīla's view is holding here in the autonomy school is that 50% of the experience of the object comes from the object side, and 50% of the experience of the object comes from the mind of the viewer's side, right? So that's actually quite a beautiful explanation if you think about it, right? We shouldn't just dismiss it out of hand. The Prasangika, right? The Madhyamika Prasangika, the middle way consequence school, which we hold to be the highest view. This is saying there's nothing coming from the side of the object at all. Nothing is existing from its own side at all. So that is distinct from this 50-50 presentation here. And so Trishi Gabtang, Kodi Kolet, Kechi So yeah. So Geshe said that he's trying to explain the text as it is, but inevitably he goes into the Prasangika direction in some of his explanations. So I guess he's saying there's a bit of both in there. Yeah. But just to be clear, the way that the wisdom of differentiating and so forth is cultivated is the same in both these schools, right? So from that perspective, not a significant difference. Yeah. So next question, Dave.
Greg, would you like to ask your question, or shall I read it? I think.
Sure, I'd love to.
Go ahead.
So I'm not sure if this is something that Geshe wants to address today, and if not, that's fine. He talked about, in the early part of the teaching today, he talked about the pitfall of concentrating only on single-pointed concentration, how that leads to arrogance and pride. I'm wondering if there are similar downfalls for someone who only practices in wisdom or in morality.
Oh, yes, Greg. No, I got your question. Dene nganso di lapa sungi nyamlendi roa, jung di tinge zingi lapa chikpo drona, kyun mambo yoris cheshi jagidwa, yene di nangshin tsutram chikpo nyamlen chegen yang, kyun yorebes, sherab nyamlen chegen chikpo yang yorebes. Yeah. So there are downfalls to doing any of the three higher trainings in isolation. So really the point we want to come away with is if we don't have all three in place, then it's not going to come out well. If we want to have good, stable results of our practice, we need all three trainings. So jim chipo nyamlen chena deneng also di
So I
just was trying to get Geshe to elucidate it a bit more. He was saying, so for example, if you just practice higher training in ethics, that's enough to get you a favorable rebirth in the human or the deva realms. However, we know that a rebirth in the human or deva realms is not a lasting solution to the problem, right? Because we're still going to be circling around samsara.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah,
So from this perspective, even just for moksha, for liberation, all three of these are required, even if we're not yet discussing about benefiting all beings. Without wisdom realizing emptiness, we cannot achieve moksha or liberation from samsara. In this way, we must actualize the Dharma jewel in our own mind to reach that. Dave, was there any other questions, or have we covered it?
Yeah, no, last question.
Yeah.
This is from Marta. Why does red tar look angry?
Ale, tene nganso di droma nyurma pamo the droma marpo di karichene lunglangdo kapo sa. Jere. Jere tes lunglangdo kapo.
Shiri dati to tricky
He says the artist maybe. We probably could have found a gentler white Tara. That was just the one I happened to find. So that just say it's Kadrup's fault. No, I'm kidding. So to subdue wrathful sentient beings who are causing harm, it's easier for Tara to do that if she has a little bit of a strict expression, if she's a little bit wrathful herself. So you can think of it like that. Just like, amongst holy beings, there are many lamas who are like pretty wrathful. Many, sorry, some. I said many instead of some. My bad. There are some lamas who are very wrathful.
Because in both of the versions on the Himalayan Art Resource page that feature red tar in center, both of them are looking quite wrathful.
It's both wrathful, eh?
Yeah.
It's it would be interesting. I'll take a look at some more images. There's a nice image from Peter Izeli of the 21 taras with green tar in the middle, but I believe it's kind of according to the same Atisha tradition. It would be interesting to see how he painted red tara. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't use it, but it was
Yeah.
But
Geshe said there's many forms of tara, not all wrathful, just like we have many different yidams who are peaceful and wrathful, right? And different practitioners need different yidams, some peaceful, some wrathful. Some sentient beings that are harming others are pretty scary, so you have to be like a little bit scary in order to subdue them, right? But only for their benefit.
Mark is saying, please write me that in word. Wrathful. Oh, wrathful. Okay, what the word is. Okay, she got it. Okay, right answered. Okay, that's it.
So thank you so much, everybody. It was a really fun session today. Thank you so much all for coming, and we will be here next Sunday. And Geshe said, continue with your studies well and continue asking good questions. He said, you're always going to have to ask questions unless you've given arisen a wisdom completely free of doubts. So in the absence of this, please continue to ask questions. Take care, folks. Have a good one.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.